What are the building stones of a happy society? There are, of course, many factors. Of those, I believe that one of the most important, that a nation and its people are at ease with its position in a global and regional context. All independent states may be equal in principle, but the reality is, as we know, different. Your country is defined by its history, its geographical location, and its natural resources. Your aspirations are limited or enhanced by those irrevocable indicators. However, there is another factor that can strengthen the role played by your country, and indeed contribute to the happiness and success of its citizens. Finland has shown that education is a source of strength, a way to compensate for other shortcomings and failings. I believe that it is generally accepted fact that the level of education, both general and vocational, of a small population is a better marker for success and prosperity than a large but uneducated population. Why has Finland been declared a top nation during the last decade in the international Pisa measurements? Pisa means Program for International Student Assessment, and it is performed by or done by OECD. To understand the measurements, these measurements include mathematics, reading, and problem solving in the schools. To understand the whole picture, you need to look at history. We were part of the Russian Empire between 1809 and 1917. And in order to achieve independence, my countrymen wanted to show the world that we are a nation worthy of recognition and an equal place among nations. Literacy for all, education possibilities for everybody, became the method and the way forward. The struggle for the preservation of the national languages became also a central part of that struggle, and of course of the cultural heritage in general. These were integral parts of the process which led to full independence for our country. The logical legacy from that period was and is a deep respect for learning and education. Who is the symbol for the teaching profession? Naturally, the teacher. Teaching remains a highly regarded activity in my country, and the teachers are trained in pedagogical faculties of several universities during 4 to 5 years, academic studies. Many apply, but in average only around 15% of the applicants are accepted. This means that the quality of the students is high and the dropout percentage is low during the studies. Teachers' salaries are not exceptionally high, below OECD average. Personal motivation is and seems to be the driving factors for teachers. A few words then about the build-up, the structure of the educational system. The Finnish comprehensive school is a communal supported school, and with government funds, of course. There are very few private schools in my country. The government and parliament adopt a national framework curriculum for 5 to 7 years at a time. It is a guidance for the schools. However, this is mainly for guidance, and the supervision is not very strict. But the results of the school can be observed in the national statistics, and everybody can see how the schools are performing. That means that our schools are trust-based, not test-based, if I may say so. Finland has a national matriculation examination for 18 to 19 years kids. About 40% of students go for vocational training, either before the 3-year gymnasium or after the matriculation exam, for polytechnical schools in that case. The whole schooling process starts with kindergarten and preschool. 98% of our kids go to preschool today. That means 6-year-olds. Can our educational achievements be explained by teaching hours? Quite the opposite. We have less hours than most Western countries, considerably less than US, France, Australia, and Canada. But a decisive factor is the extra support given to students lagging behind in some or several subjects. One teacher can be allocated to give the support on a continuous base. 99% of students can finish the compulsory education, even if the dropout rate is a little bit increasing these days. I finished this description by mentioning a few more facts that can be of importance when you judge your educational system and from a Finnish point of view with the Finnish experience. The policy to keep classes small, maximum 20, would be the ideal. When I was Minister of Education, I was able to lower with some extra financing to that 20, but in times when there are financial pressures, they tend to increase and up till even 27, which I deem is too much for really effective learning. Another factor is that 80% of our teachers participate in annual additional training. And that shows their motivation also, that they go there on a Saturday or a Sunday even for that additional training. Then third factor, there is a collaboration between schools, not competition between schools. Fourth, teachers training, these 4 years, 5 years of academic training is research-based. It is based on the best available research. Fifth or sixth factor is the parents trust their teachers. Even if you have an increasing, let's say, tendency of parents to criticize teachers, in an individualistic society, everybody believes that they know how a school should be run. But this is, of course, something which is happening everywhere. Discipline in the class in a school is essential. We have to remember that the class is room for learning, and if there is disturbances in the class, those who want to learn are disturbed. Their rights are, so to say, impeded by that. And final, political parties do not compete in our countries with school reform proposals. We have seen in some neighboring countries that every party is, if we come to power, we will reform the schools. This is not the right way to handle school politics. You cannot compete on how to reform the schools. That was the part of mine. Let me finish by saying a few words in general. Finland and Armenia are small countries, but nations with strong ambitions. Our countries are existing on the fringes of power centers, and our histories have seen dramatic upheavals. My country lost 12% of its territory in World War II, but has adapted to the realities and successfully integrated the population driven away from a prosperous province of Karelia. As the saying goes, we reconquered the lost territory inside our new borders without experiencing long national trauma. The level of education was an important factor in that process. The world knows that the history of the war, and the war has not treated Armenia and its people well, to say the least. But the nation did not disappear due to the genocide. And the Armenian diaspora is perhaps the strongest in the world in its devotion to a prosperous country, its prosperous country of origin. My personal bond to Armenia is strong. When the disastrous earthquake hit this country in December '88, I happened to be the Secretary General of the International Federation of Red Cross, and whose task it was to coordinate the assistance to the country and to the victims here. I traveled to Armenia as soon as I could, and with a huge transport plane bringing relief and equipment. I could see the devastation of Spitak and Leninakan and other places, some things which is difficult to forget. The Federation organized about 250 relief flights to Armenia from abroad with assistance, and the fundraising result were considerable, especially from the Armenian diaspora. At some points we had to appeal to the donors, stop donating in kind. It was too overwhelming, especially from the other parts of the Soviet Union. And the transport lines became clogged. That was a moment of strong international solidarity with a disaster-stricken country. As a result of the overwhelming support, we built a hospital here in Yerevan, which still exists for rehabilitation of the patients. It was meant to serve the whole Soviet Union, but just a year later the Soviet Union disappeared, so it became solely an Armenian hospital for rehabilitation and other things. But both Armenia and Finland were part of the Russian Empire. Armenia also the Soviet Union, without losing our national identities, our languages and our cultural features. Now we are independent actors on the international scene, and we intend to continue as such. It demands skill, determination, and a good educational system. I congratulate the country for its resolve and achievements. Yesterday we celebrated the 5th anniversary of the United World College School in Dilijan, and as an Aurora Goodwill Ambassador and the Chairman of the United World Council, International Council, I am proud to acknowledge the investments in education which will secure a bright future also for Armenia.